Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It is September 9th, 2013, and I'm Ann McAdoo. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, the public forces Dyess Air Force Base to respond to allegations of a nuclear weapons transfer. And
how are we supposed to trust your judgment if you're photographed with known terrorists?
I have never had anything to do with known terrorists.
That's next on the Infowars Nightly News.
You people are just over the top obvious. Captain Obvious on steroids.
Tonight's top story. John Kerry gives Syria 1 week to hand over their chemical weapons in order to avoid an attack. Kerry said he had no doubt that Assad was responsible for the chemical weapons attack last month, saying that only 3 people are responsible for the chemical weapons inside Syria: Assad, one of his brothers, and a senior general. Kerry said that the entire U.S. intelligence community was united in believing Assad was responsible. The U.S. State Department stressed that Kerry was making a rhetorical argument about this 1-week deadline and unlikelihood of Assad turning over Syria's chemical weapons stockpile. The department added that his point was that this brutal dictator with a history of playing fast and loose with the facts cannot be trusted to turn over chemical weapons. Otherwise, he would have done so long ago. That's why the world faces this moment. Now, Kerry repeatedly referred to genocides in Eastern Europe and Rwanda in pushing his case for taking military action. Kerry said he did not know if Obama would release further intelligence proving Assad was behind the attack, saying the administration had already released an unprecedented amount of information. That information, of course, does not include any actual evidence. Talk about playing fast and loose with the facts. Now, in an interview that's going to be airing on Face the Nation tonight, President Assad says he is disappointed in the Obama administration for pursuing a strike against Syria, citing faulty intelligence.
Did you get any kind of sense of what he thinks is going to happen next?
Bob, that was the very first question I asked. Do you expect an attack? He said, I don't know. He said, we're prepared as best we can. He did not say that he assumed that there was going to be an attack in Syria because of the chemical weapons.
Now, regarding potential retaliation in the event of a strike against Syria, Assad said to not deal with these terrorists like they're playing a game, but to expect everything in a counterattack. Now, coming up later in the show, I'm going to be speaking with Christopher Green of Alternative Media Television. He actually confronted John McCain about this exact subject, the potential retaliation that America might face. Now, while the Obama administration has insisted that it's common sense and not irrefutable evidence that would be enough to prove that Assad was behind this attack, others beg to differ. A kidnapped teacher heard rebels say that Assad was not behind the chemical weapons attack. Pierre Piccinin da Prata was kidnapped along with Italian war journalist Domenico Carricco back in April near Damascus. According to Carricco, the two were subjected to torture, humiliation, and mock executions by the Western-backed rebels. They were freed yesterday and flown to Rome after the Italian Foreign Ministry managed to secure their release. Piccinin told Italy's RTL radio that he heard a conversation during which members of the Abu Ammar rebel brigade admitted that Assad was not behind the attack in Ghouta that the Obama administration has cited in building a case for military intervention. It is a moral duty to say this. The government of Bashar al-Assad did not use sarin gas or other types of gas in the outskirts of Damascus. But again, Obama does not need irrefutable evidence to start World War III. Now, it was our moral duty to report last week on that secret nuke transfer from the Dyess Air Force Base to South Carolina. Well, in an unprecedented move, the Air Force Base released an official statement where they're actually refusing to deny that secret transfer. The statement posted to their official Facebook page reads that please be advised that the information contained in recent reports on nuclear weapons movement from Dyess Air Force Base was neither released nor supported by the 7th Bomb Wing Commander or representatives from Dyess Air Force Base. Please reference the Dyess Air Force Base website or other official Air Force websites for accurate, up-to-date information. So instead of denying the transfer of nuclear warheads, which coincided with the warmongering announcement by South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, that a nuclear attack may hit South Carolina if we don't go to war with Syria. Dyess is instead refusing to deny the secret nuke transfer outright. Well, as of the news hour, Dyess Air Force Base has updated this official statement to be a little bit more specific. There they say that they have not been involved in the transfer of any nuclear weapons. I love how they direct you to their website, as if they are going to update their website with top secret nuclear weapons transfer information. Now, take into consideration that we tried to get this information from them last week. I believe Anthony Gucciardi called them on 2 separate occasions, and they never got back to us. But now, as you can see, they are denying any involvement. But of course, that is why there's no paper trail on things like this, so they can deny it, and there is no actual proof that this is what took place last week. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So with the potentiality of World War III dominating the news waves, the NSA's ability to sabotage cybersecurity via their covert relationships with all the tech companies has kind of taken a back seat. But we need to ask, is cyber warfare going to be the next false flag?
Now in 2013, the administration continues to push a bullying campaign to go into Syria, and some are calling it a false flag, including Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan.
So we could be looking here at a frame job. Available data puts the horror in a different and disturbing light, meaning it's not Bashar doing the horrible things. It's the rebels nerve-gassing themselves, framing Bashar, setting him up so that the al-Qaeda guys win, and then we end up on the side of al-Qaeda, and you've heard that.
We're getting ourselves into a conflict. Iran, Russia, Hezbollah on one side, and us, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, on the other side.
Well,
it is insane, and it's condemned.
What do you think of that? Well, first of all, it's not. The Tonkin Gulf was a made-up incident.
I think this was
and
made up.
I don't believe that the Serengeti.
You hear what Pat said? He thinks this was made up.
I disagree. I don't
false
believe.
flag.
Be prepared as they make excuses to take the United States into war. But it may not be what you think. It could be cyber attacks. Cyber terrorism is real, and the NSA has proved it. In fact, they have even self-professed that they've cracked every encryption code. Digital sabotage could play a significant role in an American military strike if Congress approves an intervention. Syria's air defenses would likely be among the first targets of any cyber attack, the experts say. U.S. forces could trick the Syrians' radar system into seeing nothing as American jets pass overhead. Or the American engineers also could disable Syria's power grid remotely while the intervention was going on. Last week in Venezuela, the power grid went down, and the government is blaming the far right of a rehearsal of an electrical coup. They have since formed a security and intelligence unit to counter sabotage. A multinational terror drill is scheduled to take place in the coming months that supposedly aims to access, test, and validate vital infrastructure resources should they come under an unlikely cyber attack. It's scheduled for November in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. A NERC PowerPoint presentation explains scenarios will have far-reaching application that can exercise the plans and processes of all players, and it will feature prolonged blackout. Be prepared for a power grid shutdown. Janet Napolitano was real clear this year that it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it happens.
Well, we are definitely not going to be selling out anytime soon to the NSA, so please consider becoming a member of Prison Planet TV. Your subscription allows you to share your username and password with up to 10 other people. Become a member today and share the transmission. Now stick around because coming up, Jakari Jackson is going to be speaking with an active duty participant in that hashtag I Didn't Join movement that's going viral on Twitter. And then after that, I'm going to be speaking with Christopher Green of Alternative Media Television. You are not going to want to miss his confrontation with John McCain. We'll be right back.
Jakari Jackson here, and I want to talk to you for a second about water. You know about ProPure, our flagship water purification system, but check out some of our portable water filter products at InfoWarsStore.com. The clearly filtered water pitcher. Also, for those of you on the go, we have the Athlete Edition filtered water bottle and the RAD Eliminator Pro filtered sports bottle that removes radiation. And keep in mind, we have replacement filters for all of these products. The ever-popular grab-and-go bag favorite, the Life Straw, the Crystal Quest shower filter system, and the Aquapod kit, great for mass storage of water. You can find all this and more at the InfoWarsStore.com. And don't forget, it's your support that funds our operation. Sign up for our free newsletter at InfoWars.com/newsletter.
Are we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent, privately and publicly, looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind, the movie, at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free citizen rulebook.
And welcome back. Our guest tonight is an active duty soldier from the hashtag I Didn't Join campaign. Maybe you guys have seen this. It's been demonized in the public. Some people saying this is a hoax. This is a very real movement, very real people that you're about to see. You're about to see one of these guys right now. And these are just people who are fed up with the war lies, with the propaganda, and they know, you know, like Alex says on the show all the time, active duty military and police, they know what's going on, and this is one of the guys right here. All right, thanks for joining us, Evan.
Hi, how you doing?
Really good. Now, I want to confirm to people that you are active duty military. So can you tell us who you are and what your experience is?
Yeah, sure. My name's Evan Klosinski. I've been an active duty U.S. Army service member for 6 years now. I have one deployment to Iraq. It's been kind of a stepping stone in my life to be a service member and to learn skills and some trades that I otherwise probably wouldn't have learned outside of it. I'm currently going to be deploying again here soon to Afghanistan. And other than that, I'm just proud to serve my nation and the people of America.
And we definitely do appreciate your service. Now, Evan, can you tell us a little bit about the hashtag I Didn't Join campaign and what prompted you to become involved?
You know, I haven't had my Twitter account for very long, and I haven't done a whole lot on it. And then one day I decided to check it out, and I saw this, and I've always been a follower of Alex Jones on there and a number of other news media outlets. You know, and you got to be fair and balanced, so you got to get the story from all sides as it's being told. Mm-hmm. And I came upon a posting from the Alex Jones show, and it was about the hashtag I Didn't Join. And I saw that other service members are willing to, you know, stick their neck out on the line and to stand up for what they believe in. And that I think it's pivotal and critical for those of us in the service to let our leaders know, hey, what you're doing isn't right, and that we share the same view as the rest of the people of our country. I won't say the rest of us, because it is right now, you know, 60-40 that do not favor action in Syria. But like those other service members, I share that opinion, and it dawned on me that what they're talking about is, you know, in Afghanistan and in Iraq, we fought insurgents and people of the Taliban, and most importantly, Al-Qaeda. And there are Al-Qaeda in Syria, and apparently we're supporting them. So I'm going to fight them in one country, mm-hmm. and help them in another. It doesn't make sense. Why would anybody with a shred of common sense think that that was an okay thing to do? It doesn't make sense. You know, I've lost friends, I've lost brothers and sisters in the military to those exact same people. And now they're considering this, that you're going to put us in that same area to help those people who want to kill us. It doesn't make sense.
Now, Evan, I've come to the knowledge that not everybody in the military feels the same way as you do. You know, you said you have a good majority, 60-40 or so, you said. But we have this graphic we're going to show our viewers. I know you can't see it, but this is a graphic of a soldier who definitely does not share your views and opinions. He's saying you don't join to say, I refuse. Maybe you've seen this. I'm not sure if you have. Exactly. But he says, you know, stop making your signs and get the F back to work. Yep. What do you think about that?
That one right there, there's a blatant difference between blindly following and loyally serving. And that guy is a blind follower. He will be the person who, when they order you to fire on American citizens, God forbid, he's going to be the kind of guy who's going to pull that trigger instead of looking back and going, are you serious? And questioning that completely unlawful order. That's who that guy is. And you'll notice, of all the pictures that you see out there, I'm pretty sure, because I've looked at him, I think he's the only one who's made something like that.
Yes, that's the only one I've seen. You know, I'm sure there are many posts at many places, but that's the only one I've seen. But it's not just him. We also have these articles. Here's one from the Huffington Post. Tea Party troops, and if you have any type of different opinion, you're automatically in a Tea Party, but Tea Party troops protest Syria strike on Facebook, raise questions about military code of conduct. And, you know, this is, you know, some writers, and not just here, but many other places, people are questioning your views and your stance. And, you know, we see all these people that I didn't join to serve Al-Qaeda, to be Al-Qaeda's Air Force, and so forth. So what are your thoughts about that when you see these from these type of publications?
Well, I mean, everybody is entitled to their point of view and their opinion. And you'll also see that there's the exact opposite of that with the group Oath Keepers. You know, if you don't know who they are, those are the guys who are active duty, reserve, retired, military from all branches, police, fire department, the Oath Keepers. These are people who swore an oath, and they're going to defend and uphold that oath to their dying breath. So you've got the Tea Party people who are being accused for saying that they're feeling this way about it, and then you've got, on the other side, the Oath Keepers. You've got those people who are willing to uphold that oath, and they understand that there's a priority set in there, that when you take that oath, the first part of it is that you will uphold and defend the Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic. And then the next part of it is that you will follow the orders of the president and officers appointed over you. So the precedence there is to uphold and defend the Constitution, and then to follow orders. And if those orders aren't lawful and legal, you have a moral obligation to disobey. So if the Tea Party people, and I'm not saying they're bad, I'm not saying they're good, if they find it outrageous or offensive that there are people who are willing to actually understand that the oath they took has multiple parts to it and an order of precedence, then perhaps they should reread, if they've ever taken that oath, they should reread it and understand a little better how that oath is meant to be.
And that very much does concern me. I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, we see these guys not just in military, but police and wherever they may be. And, you know, I'm just going to follow whatever order I'm given. You know, we saw this with Hurricane Katrina, the door-to-door gun confiscation, as well as many other examples, spraying kids at, you know, at the colleges and so forth, pepper spraying them in the face. I'm just going to follow whatever order I'm given. And, you know, it always ends up with the old cliche that this is how you get a Nazi Germany. This is how you get a Stalinist Russia. Does this concern you?
With the gradual turn of our police forces into literally police state, I mean, look what happened after the Tsarnaev brothers bombed Boston. You know, you saw armed men going door to door to door, you know, not asking for permission, just boom, going in, saying, hey, we're coming in, we're looking.
And not just that, they're running around the streets pointing firearms at journalists, putting them in their faces, you know, and other channels saying that never happened. We have it on camera from several different angles, you know, people being escorted out of their house by gunpoint, you know, and then they're like, well, they volunteered to leave. Well, yeah, they volunteered to leave. They didn't fight you when you pointed a gun in their face.
Yeah. I'd volunteer to move, too, if I had somebody's gun pointed in my face and I didn't have a means of defending myself. Yeah, I'd voluntarily move, too. So
now, Evan, let me ask you this. You know, there's a lot of people out there and they're saying, you know, what's the big deal about the war in Syria? You know, it's just another country. You know, Obama got on TV and said they have chemical weapons without showing any real evidence other than the video that had the Al-Qaeda logo suspiciously in the corner, but saying that was the Assad regime. But, you know, from your opinion and your views, you know, is it a good deal to go into Syria? Should we have any type of intervention in Syria?
On Syria, you know, the interesting thing, Syria is a sovereign nation state. And one of the more interesting facts about them is that they're not under the IMF. They don't fall under the big bankers that relatively control the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, you've got a civil war that's been going on for some time now that has absolutely nothing to do with us. It's their civil war. You know, that's not our fight to get into, and we have no real logical reason to do so. You know, the international laws state that you don't go and interfere in somebody else's civil war unless they ask you to. And as the rebels are not a recognized state, they do not have a governmental authority, they can't do that. We can't go in and say, hey, we're going to help these guys now, because we're going to support them and provide them money and weapons. We can't do that. It violates international law in itself. Now, if Assad said, hey, I need you some help here.
Which is not happening, but yeah, go ahead.
I know I haven't been the best guy. I'm a bit of a dictator, but I could use some help here. He has the international legal authority to do that. And then you look at the rebels and the makeup of them, who they are. Radical Islamists, some moderate Islamists, as Secretary of State Kerry has pointed, and John McCain has said these are moderates.
Even though he goes out there and hangs out with the people and says, I was never hanging out with known terrorists.
Not those people he was hanging out with are actual identified terrorists, yeah. I saw that too. It's kind of a chuckle there, but at the same time, I mean, look at who he is. And then a good portion of those, they're a bit more than just radical. They're Al-Qaeda. They're CIA and FBI terrorist watch list groups. Al-Qaeda,
mm-hmm.
The Al-Nusra Front, blatantly murdering and killing civilians. And then, you know, the other day, the video came up and it hit, I believe the New York Times published a picture right on their front page of 7 men laying face down in the dirt who were then executed and left in an unmarked grave. Those are, by John McCain and John Kerry standards, those are apparently the moderates we're dealing with over there.
Exactly.
Differ on that.
Now, Evan, our time is short. Can you just give us what your last closing thoughts?
I would hope that the citizens of our nation will look deeply into the truth and what's actually happening, look into their conscience and realize that, yes, some of these events are tragic and what happened is not a good thing, but also that it's not our place to police the world. And I would hope that they would urge their representatives and senators in D.C. and over there at the White House, let them know that, hey, we don't approve, and that for 200 plus years our government has worked for us and we don't work for them, and that they have the obligatory requirement to listen to the will of the people. And if the people have spoken, then that's it. If the people say, by majority, don't do it, then you can't do it. And our representatives need to listen. If we say don't do it, then your vote is no, my people have spoken. Simple as that. Wake up, America. Your government works for you, not the other way around.
It's exactly what they don't want you to know, the big government. And also, Evan, what would you say to anybody who's in the military, and they don't like this war, and they want to speak out? What would you say to them to give them the courage that you have?
Take a stand. Do the right thing. General Schwarzkopf said it's not always the easiest thing to do the right thing. I forget the phrasing exactly on it, but those of us in the military, you know what Schwarzkopf said, and follow it, because doing the moral right thing is all we can do. Otherwise, we become part of the problem.
All right, thank you, Evan, and definitely appreciate your time and appreciate your courage and your service.
Thank you.
And there he goes. It takes great courage not only to fight in the United States military, but also just to do one of the things that Evan just did. You know, to speak up, speak out, because there's so much pressure from the higher ups, other soldiers, you know, on your case. You know, like you said, he's lost friends and family because of these matters. But it's a very important issue to speak up and speak out about. And another way you can get the word out is to get the new Infowars magazine. This month's cover has President Obama, and it's all about the political correctness campaign. The war against rodeo clowns and all that good stuff is right here in this month's Infowars magazine. So stay tuned, because right after this break, Ann McAdoo is going to be back in this chair talking to Christopher Green about his encounter with John McCain.
Now you can watch the Infowars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Americans get a lot of flack internationally for appearing to be somewhat apathetic to politics. But today I'm going to be speaking with Christopher Green of Alternative Media Television. He is one American who is not afraid to stand up to our warmongering politicians and demand some answers to tough questions. All right, Christopher, well, thank you so much for being with us. So you
Great to be here.
You came face to face with John McCain himself this weekend.
We did, and he's a bulldog. I'll tell you, he was angry. Did not like the questions we had to ask.
Well, you were asking some tough questions. Actually, we're going to go to that clip now.
Senator, there are 5 U.S. warships in the Mediterranean right now. Russia and China allegedly are sending warships as well. Russia, China, and Iran have warned the United States of catastrophic consequences if the United States attacks Syria. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that it doesn't concern me in the slightest.
And why is that?
Because they will not act, just as they didn't act when the Israelis 4 times have taken out targets inside Syria. Syria said that they would react, and they didn't. The United States is the most powerful nation in the world, and we're not going to be intimidated by Russia and China. We are not. So I guarantee you that they will not act. If we launch these strikes against Syria, they will not act.
Senator Ted Cruz said yesterday out of Texas that we should not act as al-Qaeda's air force. The al-Nusra Front is fighting alongside the Free Syrian Army, which is directly linked to al-Qaeda. Why was the United States fighting against al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, but now fighting alongside them in Syria?
Because your statement is totally false. Your statement could not be more false.
That isn't false. That's been well documented.
No, your statement is false. So if you want to say that it's not, I'm entitled to say your statement is false. I've been in Syria. You've been in Syria? No.
I have not.
No, you have not.
It's also clear that the American people overwhelmingly do not support a war in Syria. A research poll said 91% of Americans do not support it.
Your statement was false, so I don't have any response to a false statement.
Senator McCain, what do you say about your judgment on how to pick the good and evil in Syria when you yourself were photographed? How do we trust your judgment, picking the good and the evil in Syria?
I was photographed with someone because it appeared in an al-Qaeda newspaper in Lebanon.
It appeared in the Guardian newspaper. You obviously know what I'm talking about. How are we supposed to trust your judgment if you're photographed with known terrorists?
I have never had anything to do with known terrorists, and I'm offended by your question.
Wow, Christopher, he looked really uncomfortable.
He was very uncomfortable. You know, I think he thought maybe at first we were Fox or ABC or NBC or one of the, the mainstream media propaganda networks. And then he realized that the questions we were asking, that I was asking of him, weren't your typical questions. They were very hard-hitting. One of the first questions I asked were, John, China, Russia, and Iran have warned of catastrophic consequences if the United States strikes Syria. And he guaranteed, I mean, this is unbelievable. I've never seen a politician really be able to guarantee anything, but he guaranteed that Russia and China, global superpowers, will not act, will not retaliate, and just really shrugged it off as rhetoric and really doesn't care about what the rest of the world thinks. Pretty unbelievable.
Well, that's how he earned his reputation for being the mavericky McCain. So he doesn't need to care what America thinks.
Yeah, he really doesn't. And, questions that Americans should ask, a big question is, why we've been fighting wars overseas in the Middle East for decades in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Of course, we have the non-wars that we don't admit to in places like Yemen and Pakistan and the ongoing drone strikes, et cetera. But the second question that I asked is, why is the United States, why have we been fighting against al-Qaeda, which is demonized here in the U.S. as, Durka Durka, Team America, you know what. But now we're fighting alongside those same terrorists. We're arming them. We're funding them. We are sponsoring them on the ground in a bloody, violent civil war to overthrow and topple a government, which they always call a regime. I always notice the propaganda spin, a government, Bashar al-Assad. And, one of the things I didn't really get to ask was, what motive did Bashar al-Assad even have to use chemical weapons on his own people? He has been winning the war up to this point. We have had zero evidence from Washington. The White House put out a 4-page report that looked like a third grader had written it. No concrete facts, totally inconclusive. We had Russia. This is another question I didn't get to ask him. I was going to ask him if he's read the 100-page report that's come out of Russia, which is basically diametrically opposing the United States accusation that Assad's government used these chemical weapons. The evidence actually is pointing to the contrary, that it's the insurgents on the ground, the terrorists. I don't like to call them the Free Syrian Army. These are terrorists trying to overthrow Assad's government. So those were some of the questions that we were asking that we never really got to, Leanne.
Right. Well, and he wasn't going to answer them anyway because he was deeply offended by your tough, hard-hitting questions. They don't like that. So yeah. Why was McCain actually there meeting with the town of Prescott?
Really to placate the American people, to pretend that they actually care, and to pretend that we actually have a representative government here in America, which we no longer have. And just to give you an idea, I mean, it was a very tense environment. While we were there, there was a gentleman, I think is an American hero. Another video we put out that Infowars had featured where a guy calls for John McCain to be arrested and tried for treason. And what was abundantly clear is that nobody in that room wants a war with Syria. I read a research report earlier that day that said 91% of Americans don't want a war in Syria. So we're telling our representative, hey, McCain, we don't want a war. And he's just placating the public. He's on a plane right now, if he's not already in Washington, D.C., and they're readying themselves to act. They're readying themselves to strike. So my question is, how do we have a representative government if the people are saying no and our leadership is doing the exact opposite? Now, keep in mind, McCain, these are very war-hungry politicians. We were just in Iraq. We're still there. We were sold the lie and the false pretense by the George W. Bush administration that it was WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. That was the reason we had to invade Iraq and topple Saddam Hussein. That was a lie. That was an utter fabrication. And so these people have no track record. They have a track record of being liars, of lying to the American people. How can we be expected to trust these politicians anymore? Another question I didn't get to ask is, we're coming off just a few years ago where we spent trillions of dollars in bailout money to bail out the same cronies that just ripped off America. I mean, nothing's changed in Washington. And the key factor here is that what Washington is concerned about is not really just Syria, although this will open up a bigger wound, a bigger flesh wound in the Middle East, I believe will work itself into a regional conflict. What the United States and Israel are concerned about is Iran. They are very worried about Iran and their nuclear capability. So this war in Syria is very much about Iran. And that's why the American people need to be concerned about this, because you have big global emerging superpowers in the name of Russia and China basically calling the United States bluff. McCain seems confident, and he guaranteed that these countries will not act, will not retaliate. Well, as an American and somebody that loves this country, I'm not so sure about that.
Right. Actually, when you were asking him those questions, McCain, his response reminded me a lot of when Bush, when W was confronted, when he sort of changed the war rhetoric from Osama bin Laden to then Saddam Hussein, and he said, well, I'm not worried about Osama bin Laden. He's the least of my worries. Now we need to worry about these weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And the media just went with it. They were like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. You know, that sort of reminds me of exactly what McCain is doing here. Like, you know, I'm not worried about that, so.
Absolutely. It feels very much like an instant replay, but this is far more dangerous, in my opinion. This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. This is very, very scary. I mean, keep in mind, Russia collapsed. They collapsed in a war in Afghanistan. This could very, very well be how the United States ultimately collapses. You know, coming off of 2008. No one wants to talk about what's happening economically right now. The fact that we have a debt that's spiraling out of control, that we're operating on thin air, 0% interest rates, quantitative easing into infinity. This is all about debt. This is about insolvency and bankruptcy here in the United States. This is another way that the United States can actually reset that debt, by dropping bombs on innocent civilians. And see, this is a fundamental point that we all need to consider. The U.S. government, in my opinion, could care less about the civilians on the ground in Syria. They care about money. They care about resetting the debt here in the United States, and they care about power. So selling us on the idea that this is a humanitarian effort, and you notice how the president, Barack Obama, always likes to lump the kids in it. You know, what about the children? Children are dying. He did the same thing with gun control and Sandy Hook and these other false flag events that we've had. This is just mainstream media and political propaganda to push the United States into another war with the real sights on Iran. Bottom line, Israel and the United States want to destroy Iran.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what Kerry just came out today and was talking about, you know, the Holocaust and Rwanda, and sort of tugging on all these times when the world just sat aside before in the past, and you know, hundreds of thousands of people have died. So he's really tugging on America's heartstrings to say, you guys should be compassionate about this situation here. Why do you think that they're going with this angle of compassion and humanitarianism?
Well, that's a very easy way to garner support among the people that are too busy watching football or, you know, being entertained, you know, at the movie theaters or going about their day-to-day lives, to really be concerned about Syria. I mean, I have people I talk to, they say, Christopher, I don't care about the Middle East, nuke the whole place. That's honestly how a lot of Americans feel. I'm amazed by that. I think America has something else coming to it if they think we're just going to continue to strike these countries without any repercussion. And what it's done is it's formed a coalition in the Middle East. You know, these countries in the Middle East have their differences, but they have a common enemy in the United States now, and they're getting stronger. And it's not just Syria, it's not just Iran, it's emerging superpowers like China and Russia that we need to be concerned about. This goes back all the way to Edward Snowden. The surveillance war that we are fighting, this information war, these leaks, you know, everything we do now is, you know, pre-programmed, being monitored on a daily basis. So we are in an information war, we are in a surveillance war, and we are very much living through a physical war overseas. You know, people think that it can't happen here. They think that the United States can't be invaded. They don't think that we could potentially have Chinese invade our country. You know, I joke, you know, I wonder what the debate on gun control will be like once we're invaded. You know, people are going to wish, you know, maybe they'll think twice about it when that happens.
Exactly. Well, the video that we just watched has already gotten about 60,000 views on alternative media television. And then the other one where the man was calling for John McCain's to be tried for treason, that's gone over 100,000 views here. So it's definitely an info war going on. But I'm curious, how long was McCain in that room with you all? And then what was his demeanor like after you all really hit him with those hard questions?
Yeah, the demeanor was really tense. He was there for about an hour. There were just regular people, Americans, good Americans, like the guy that called for John McCain to be arrested and tried for treason, speaking, raising their voices, raising concerns. Part of the story that you didn't see is when we turned off the cameras, McCain actually got in our face and started yelling at us.
Wow.
I mean, bulldogging. It was a confrontation. And basically said that he said something along the lines that we gave the media a bad name. That's what he said, because we're asking tough questions of our politicians. We're holding these people accountable. We're saying we don't want a war. We're arguing with them. I mean, this is the representative media, and people like McCain, they need to get used to it because they're going to be seeing a lot more of us. They're going to be seeing a lot more of Infowars, and they just can't stop us. This is representative media now, and this is a representative republic. And these people work for us. I think a lot of Americans forget that. And our politicians need to be reminded of that. So if we do not want a war here in America, we should not go to war. And to do anything else really is, as this guy called for in that video that has 100,000 plus views, really is an act of treason.
Exactly. Well, speaking of alternative media sort of winning the info war, talk to me a little bit about your radio program. You've got the YouTube channel, Alternative Media Television.
Correct. We've got a YouTube channel that has really exploded in recent months over the past few years. We have over 100,000 plus subscribers, 16 million views worldwide. This has just been a grassroots effort from the very beginning. Sometimes I'm amazed of how far we've come. We are entirely supported and funded by our audience. And we focus on truth. We ask the hard-hitting questions every single day. I have a radio show as well. You can find us at amtvmedia.com, and you can find us at AMTV in Seagreen 34, which is our handle on YouTube. And we are just growing like gangbusters right now. We are very, very excited, and we will keep asking and demanding that these politicians answer us when we speak to them. So it's pretty incredible how the paradigm of traditional archaic media is changing, and it really is power to the people. We're adding all kinds of amazing contributors to our platform, and it's a very exciting time for us.
Well, we are very excited to see what you are going to come up with next. The way you stuck it to McCain this weekend, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more interesting and controversial videos coming out of alternative media television. Christopher,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there is the rise of alternative media. And if you'd like to be a part of that momentum, please consider becoming a member of Prison Planet TV. Your subscription will get you the Alex Jones Show, the special reports, the movies, the rants, all of our ebooks. And of course, your subscription allows you to share your username and password with up to 10 other people. Become a member today. Now, thank you all so much for joining us here at the Infowars Nightly News. Join us again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. Reporting for Infowars Nightly News, I'm Ann McAdoo.
Now you can watch Alex Jones live at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
You can also browse the network, the Infowars Nightly News,
and over 60 movies and documentaries all together in one place.
You can watch the Alex Jones radio show live as it happened.
So check it out, Infowars.com/show.